doing a little test. See how well this thing does off-road. Here in these beautiful mountains, there is a massive rut set up where these UTVs come through here and rip it. Oh my God! Yeah, so this thing is like solid. Easy. All right, so the question is an old truck better than a new truck? And I think the answer is yes. On this episode, we're gonna talk about comparing a 46-year-old, that's how old I am, 1980 Ford F350, this happens to be my wife's truck, versus my truck, a brand new 2025 Ford Raptor. The biggest difference right now out the gate is this truck costs 20 times less than this truck. Look, you don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of aftermarket mods to just go out and have fun. So I have a 1980 F350 bullnose Ford pickup truck. This truck is four-wheel drive and it happens to be my wife's truck. Now, the biggest difference out the gate between this and that is price. My Ford Raptor costs 20 times more than this pickup truck. That's a huge cost. This is a $5,000 truck and it's got all the things that we need as a family for hauling, going off-road, going camping out of, all the stuff. But it's like, is it worth it? And are these trucks reliable? Oh, by the way, you can check out my wife's YouTube channel. What is it?
Jessie Lee Outdoors.
Jessie Lee Outdoors, I'll link it down below. But she did a walk around of this truck, so you can watch that video to do the detailed walk around. But I'm gonna talk specifically to the things that you need to look into when you're trying to get a truck, one that's reliable, you're gonna use it for utility, because it's got a lot of utility, and in that case of potentially bugging out, like a good bug out rig, right? All right, so this is the Ranger F350. That's just the trim of the F350. That was made from 1980 to 1986. This is the 7th gen of Ford pickup trucks, known as the bullnose, which comes from the front end of this. It's funny because this is still considered a square body, but from the factory, they describe this as like new in aerodynamics and the roundness of the shape, but it still looks like a box, which is my favorite type of pickup truck. The K10, K20, K30, and obviously the square body Ford pickup trucks. I have my own Ford F250 Highboy, which is an F26 VIN code and is a four-wheel drive, divorce transfer case, all that good stuff. It's one of my favorite pickup trucks. This is really the luxury version of that truck, not because of the Ranger trim, but because of the options. This particular truck has power brakes, air conditioning, heat, a brake controller, and can tow a lot of weight for this year of truck, as well as a massive payload. It's above 3,000 pounds on payload, meaning I can carry all the things, the hay, the kids, the camping stuff, and we can turn this into an Overlander on a budget, like a real budget. Now, it's kind of weird because they did like this weird wishbone. I know that's not the technical term, but most people recognize it as like a wishbone suspension up front. It's not independent front suspension because it has leaf springs. It is a wishbone component, so it's not solid front axle. And this particular model was trimmed out with a Dana 50 up front with a 60 in the rear. So a lot of capability underneath the rig. Is it off-road capable? For sure, it's four-wheel drive, high and low, but it's not gonna be the most comfortable articulating off-road vehicle, meaning it's not as capable as a Raptor, but it's still a very capable rig. The biggest benefit to owning a truck like this is the simplicity of this truck without the use of complicated electronic processes in order to run features in it. So it's 12 volt, it has the ability for you to route power to the rear in a camper setup. The camper edition model of this actually came with a second battery that ran power to the rear. This is an 8-foot long bed on this particular truck. The disadvantages are it's a single cab and we have 4 kids. That's not the greatest setup. But if we were going camping and we had to run multiple rigs, well, I can't afford 2 Raptors. I have a payment on that. We're gonna kit that out with a Bowen custom setup, a GFC camper, etc. But if I'm taking 2 of the kids and the wife is taking 2 of the kids, it's a perfect setup for us to park together and camp, right? Because of the lack of electronics, I don't need to have a dealership tethered to the maintenance plan on this. I can go to Valvoline right down the road or Jiffy Lube, get all the fluids changed, and then most of the maintenance, all of the maintenance really, I can do myself in my garage, in my shop. This one in particular has a 400 series engine in it, which is a big tractor engine. It can be freed up from power by one, getting rid of the California emissions because it's out of Cali, hence the no rust on this thing. Being 46 years old, I'm more broken than this truck. It has basically the emissions equipment on it. If we do a 4-barrel carb setup, we just free up some air, it's going to run great. Even running an Edelbrock sniper system on this could be an option to, again, free it up and to allow it to breathe a little bit more so it runs better. However, it will never be the truck that the Raptor is. And that's okay, that's not the point. This is a local get around town truck. Also, there's nostalgia behind these type of pickup trucks. My favorite truck are my high boys. I have an F350 that's a 2-wheel drive as well, a 4-speed. That truck is amazing. The nostalgia in a manual, old school truck that starts every time is awesome because I don't have to worry about electronics failing. That particular truck, if I have a sensor issue, it could shut it down, and that's scary. You go into some modern diesels, good luck with that. If you don't have DEF, it's gonna put it in limp mode, and you might be sitting on the side of the highway in a $100,000 pickup truck because you don't have bovine urine inside of your vehicle. That's what it is. That's what DEF fluid is anyway. So no real emissions, no real restrictions, and it starts up every single time. And if it didn't, I'm pretty confident with a local Napa or O'Reilly's and a toolkit, we can get it back on the road. Is it going to be as comfortable? No, it's not. We'll get into that on that side, but it's a great setup. Last but not least, before we get it out on the road and start testing it, one thing you should know about these trucks is they're great for this idea of bugging out, the simplicity of bugging out. This particular truck has a primary and auxiliary tank. Most of these came with primary and auxiliary tanks from the factory because you needed extended fuel range. You're not going to get good gas mileage out of this truck. I mean, you're gonna get like 8 to 10 miles per gallon depending on what you're hauling. Not great, but again, the simplicity in that. Also, because it is a carbureted engine, meaning I'm not using electronic fuel injection, it is so much simpler to work on from the factory. I don't have to have complicated tools. I don't have to have an ECU or a programmer. I could do it all with a basic tool set and a shop manual. Everything in this truck, from the rolling up the windows to the lock system, is all manual. It's very analog. One, I like that simplicity. I just saw a story the other day on Facebook of a little girl that was tragically killed when the Hyundai that she was in, that had power seats to collapse the rear third row of the vehicle, started to electronically malfunction and crushed her in that seat. I can't imagine that kind of scenario. And it's like, why do we need electronic power everything for everything in these vehicles? There's nothing wrong with analog options or manual options. If you have primary and auxiliary tank, you have 3,000 plus pounds of payload. You could use your imagination in the loadout of this, of how much stuff you could fit in this 8-foot bed with unlimited load capacity. So the campers, the old school campers, the camper tops, all the storage bins, all the equipment, all the kids, and you're not even coming close to the load capacity. I have a featured video on YouTube that we're doing of the loadout with bonus footage and additional blocks of instruction on specific kit like first aid in my Patreon and the link down below. You can check it out. All right, so let's shift over to the Ford Raptor, the most expensive truck in the world. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but it's super expensive. All right, guys, so 2025 Ford Raptor. This is the 802 Alpha edition. Comes with stock 37s. It's geared for the 37s. From the factory, the wheels are actually beadlock, but I went with shadow mark wheels, which are a lot lighter. To me, a lot more utilitarian. I don't need beadlocks. I'm super happy with these. Super cool wheels. I'll link them down below. No affiliation, no kickbacks, but you guys can check those wheels out. In this coal green from the factory. Now, why did I get this pickup truck in the first place? Well, one, good interest rate, right? I'd rather use the bank's money than my own. If I can get a good interest rate on this, which I did, then I'm all about it. I sold my F350 because the F350 that I had, the XLT, we couldn't park anywhere. It's a massive rig, and it had a Bowen Customs, a camper, and all the things, but it just wasn't functional in and around town. And we were just using it for road trips, which is cool because we kept the miles down low, but I wanted something more that I could use as a daily driver, but also use as a camp setup. Now this one We did a video on my main channel, Mike Glover channel, which I'll link down below, of them removing this at Bowen Customs in Colorado because it's going to get a Bowen Customs setup, a camper setup, and a GFC topper, a tent topper for the overland camping rig that it's going to be. Now this is 20 times more expensive than my wife's truck. There's a lot of justifications for having a new pickup truck with a good interest rate, but there's a lot of argument against that. I would never fork out the $90,000+ that I paid for this truck in cash. Never happened. I would never do that. I'd rather buy 10 of those trucks and soup them up than buy one truck and pay cash for it. Again, I'm paying on interest on a car payment, and that's suffice for me. Eventually we'll pay this thing off, but the goal is to save that money to invest into the camper setup that we're putting on it. Now it's gonna be baller. Bowen Customs flatbeds have all the utility and storage. I have to respring it, and then this GFC camper setup that's gonna be on top of it is going to be Gucci. I get a little bit more distance on the back end with the Bowen Custom setup because this is a 5.5-foot bed. Now, I want you to look in this bed. You don't get any room in the beds of these pickup trucks, but they're not really made for that. I mean, this is a souped up doom buggy that costs $100,000. It's so expensive. I don't think I've ever paid that much for any vehicle. Yep, no, this is the most expensive vehicle I've ever owned. My Ford F350 XLT Super Duty was $75. This was 25 grand more expensive. Is it justified? I think on a car payment it is. Again, I wouldn't fork out the money otherwise, but it is a luxurious experience. Of course, this is different because it's a quad cab. I could fit the kids inside of this rig, but it's super cozy, super comfortable with long trips, and it's very sporty as a rig. You are not going to get that sporty feeling like you get in a Ford Raptor in this stock F350 that's more like a ranch truck. But again, two different varied experiences. I'm not looking to get in that F350 and rip it. I'm looking to get in that and run to Tractor Supply to pick up goat feed, right? I'm looking to go down into the valley and Spanish Fork and pick up some hay. I'm looking to take the family camping 15 minutes down the road in the Wasatch Front. That's what that truck is for. This truck I could take across the country very comfortably and ball the hell out. It's got all the tech, but that's a huge disadvantage in my opinion. A lot of the things that this thing does, I don't want it to do. Like it has sensors on every corner of every bumper. It has this thing where you're driving down the road, and if you're coming close to the lane edges, it will vector you back in by moving the steering wheel. I don't want a robot moving my steering wheel at all. I know it's not a robot, but I don't want tech doing anything for me, including driving my vehicle. I'll handle that on my own. Not that I'm a control freak, but it's literally miscalculated things in the past and overcorrected. And I'm like, what is it doing? I just disable it every single time I get in the rig, okay? What I do like about this is the features of integration of, for example, Apple CarPlay, for navigation, for podcasts, for radio, for kids entertainment, for whatever, right? It's fully integrated. Now, when I get in my F350, I'm gonna put on AirPods and I'm gonna listen to a podcast, and I don't need that tech. Sure, I could do a heads-up display with an iPhone mount, but I'm not really feeling that. And most of the times, like in that air-cooled Porsche that I own, I don't need that. The nostalgia is just driving it by itself, and it's quiet time for Mike. In the video that I linked down below, we did some off-road tests in this, balling it out, but also a little crawling. This truck is capable of doing most of the things that you would do with your family. It's not a rock crawler. You're not gonna be doing the hardest trails in Moab, but it is certainly capable. Now, a lot of people buy these trucks and they just mall crawl them. They take them in and around town. They never see off-road use. That is not the intent with my truck. I plan to ball this thing out constantly. So without further ado, let's get into some tests of the rigs so you guys can see this F350 and what it's actually capable of. So here we go. Well, as you can see, I changed and shaved, and it's another day because the weather was crap. Not too great today, but there's secrets to this truck to get it started. Even to open the door, you got to do things like, oh, yeah, 3 times on the gas cap. And look, there's old pickup trucks like this. The interiors are hit or miss. What I like about this particular one with the Ranger trim, they're really comfy. The Ranger trim has tilt column. It has beautiful wood. It's not beautiful, it's really garbage. It's actually plastic and it's all rubbed out. That's what he said. But the dash doesn't have any cracks in it, which is wild. And the vents work, and it's got AC and heat. I don't know if it works, probably not. I'm sure the AC has to be charged because it's never been charged. And it's cool, if you look right here, it says on the temperature control module system, You have front, fuel, and rear. I actually don't know what fuel means. Front means the front tank, and rear means the rear tank, but I don't know what fuel means. Maybe just fuel? That's weird. And this one has a unique feature. I don't know if it was put in afterwards and why you would do this, but it has a, maybe it's actually like this, I imagine. It has a switch to activate the fuel pump, and you can hear it like really obnoxiously going off. Since this is carbureted, you might want to touch the gas, but I'm not into that. I just try to see and wing it. Never had problems starting this truck. Fancy cup holder right here. Beautiful cup holder. Something rattling, which is about typical. But this truck came stock. That doesn't sound normal, but whatever. It sounds like the fuel pump's gonna explode. But these came factory, typically with 351s or some V8. There's like a lot of options for this particular truck. Power brakes, AC, a lot of emissions from California, which is wild, but very simple. Carbureted, good battery, and this is a 400 cubic inch, 6.6 liter V8. Even has a spare tire components right here, which that seems like a really bad place to put spare tire components. I imagine the bottle jack's right here. I don't know, I just prefer that to be somewhere not in the engine bay where it can get loose and just destroy everything. But again, it's easy. California truck, minimal rust, just surface patina, adds character. Are we gonna do anything to it? No, absolutely not. I'm not paying more than I pay for the truck for a paint job. Unless it's a 1985 4Runner that costs $3,000 and I'm dumping 30 grand into. That's an investment. All right, let's go. And do you really need a seatbelt one of these things? I mean, if you get in any kind of accident in this, you're just probably gonna die. I think I'd be safer on a crotch rocket. Power steering and brakes. All right, so one thing to notice right out the gate with this truck is it really is uncomfortable to drive. The suspension on this is sprung so tight because remember, this thing was meant to tow a ass ton. And I don't know if you know how much an ass ton weighs, but it is more than a ton. It's an ass ton. And I had a fifth wheel hooked up to this, but I'm like, I'm not towing anything that requires inserting the trailer in the back middle of my 8-foot bed because that's for activities and loadout. We're on 4 leaf springs, like 4 different leaf spring packs, and this wishbone front suspension, which is supposed to articulate a little bit better than a solid front axle without the wishbone technology. But look, this truck with an automatic in it, I believe it's a 4-speed, shifts good, trans is good, drives straight, and besides feeling really uncomfortable sitting so upright with good posture, because I'm used to like laying down in vehicles, it's not too bad. It's not too uncomfortable. Also, it's got heat and AC, which scares me every time I turn these knobs because I'm like, this thing's gonna break. Floor. See, that's what I love about the amenities of old, of the analog of old. I don't have to like go through a 10-step process to get through an LED screen to navigate the temperature. It's like it's either hot or white hot or you're cold as ice. You know what I'm saying? You're cold as ice. I don't know. I'm thinking that's where the song came from. It's from these temperature control units. Always have one of these sitting up on your dash because it gives you clout, and if somebody's gonna break in your rig, they're gonna steal your hat for sure. But maybe not. If they're country, they might go, yeah, I'll leave them the truck, but I'll steal the hat. Big shout out to whoever hat company this is. Also, one of the things I love about everything in here is it's all manual. So even the windshield things are just like this knob. Lights, you pull a knob. Your fancy odometer reads in estimates. And I don't know what that is, but kind of looks like a reticle or Jesus. I don't know. I like that. And honestly, in a world immersed in technology with everything going on, it's kind of nice getting in something that's real simple, that doesn't even facilitate really anything besides CDs, and there's no technology. And it feels nice, like driving an old pickup truck. These visors don't have clips, but that's okay. It doesn't even have a liner. It drives nice, especially on the dry rotted wheels that are super dangerous, by the way. I need to really get these wheels changed. That might change soon. Now, the cool thing about this particular truck is that it is 4-wheel drive, the F350, so I can hold or load a lot more weight. But we're gonna get coffee, and then we're gonna go off-roading a little bit, because we gotta test the off-road capability. Just a little bit. Not too much, because the tires are dry rotted, like legitimately. The guy who sold me this truck bought it out of California, and it's been sitting for a long time. The only thing we've done modification-wise is the maintenance, which is the first thing you should do with any vehicle. We changed out the diffs, transmission, oil, but that's about it. Look at that. You wanna roll down the window? You just gotta turn the knob, dude. We're headed to the hinterlands. And when I think about a truck like this, it is the ultimate bug out rig. Imagine an EMP clacks off, and although this isn't EMP proof, it has less chances in being disrupted and disabled because of the shock wave of electromagnetic pulse that destroys everything that transitions or transfers electricity. Every circuit, every ECU, fried, inoperable. Also, when you're bugging out, you want like a tractor, but you don't just want a tractor, you want a off-road capable vehicle. You want load capacity. My favorite thing in overlanding was when I got into it, I started to realize that most Americans don't realize that the romanticism behind overlanding that comes from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, even Africa, that world is unhinged. I mean, I think normal, it's just not regulated. The EPA destroys everything in America that's fun. So the turbo diesel solid front axle Land Cruiser that you could buy right now brand new in 2026 is not the same Tacoma that you're driving here in America with all the restrictions, especially out of California. So what's impacted the most is low capacity. So you see Australians, for example, even with a lot of load capacity, they're putting on aluminum bumpers on the front end of the rigs. Why? Because they have more chance of smacking a kangaroo than an elk, but I get it saves weight. You get a guy who buys a Tacoma here, no offense to guys who buy Tacomas, but you get a front bumper, rear bumper, rock sliders, you get all the accessories, the roof rack, the rooftop tent, and you've already exceeded the low capacity because that includes the people and the gear and all the crap in your rig. It includes your dog or your old lady, not to compare those the same. Either or both, and or. Meaning that all the weight you put in, even this hat, is included in the low capacity of the weight. And if you overload it, which I have certainly done. In 2016, I was not the first guy, come on, the ego on this guy. One of the first guys to buy a 2016 4Runner and get it kitted out. Like there's a couple of companies, including suspension companies and intake companies and etc., that use my vehicle to build that product, and they hooked me up. And so I had a lot of that crap on my rig. A lot of it was functional, but a lot of it was overbearing and overloading the low capacity, which was affecting brakes, suspension, safety. The fear of my life every time I went off-road because, I'm in Poughkeepsie Pass or California Pass near Uray in Silverton, and I'm like sliding sideways in a little bit of wet mud off the edge of a cliff. I mean, that's exaggerating, but legitimately just felt unsafe. You take the low capacity of something like this, yeah, you're not gonna rock crawl this in Moab. You could try, it'd be fun. We'd probably do that anyway. But this has a low capacity of 3,800 pounds. Comparable to a Tacoma, 12 to 1,500 on average. There are exceptions, guys. There are obviously exceptions. But it's one of the reasons I like the idea of getting a Super Duty or a big truck. Now, you take that big truck to the desert, it ain't gonna fare well. Take it to anywhere really in southern Utah, Kanab, Canyonlands. It's not gonna work out well because it's too much weight. So the balance, well, it's this. 3,200 to 3,800 pounds of low capacity, double standard low capacities for all the goodies on the back, the motorcycles, the camping gear, all the stuff that you need to bug out, and you have a primary and auxiliary tank. The primary tank in this, 19 gallons. The auxiliary tank, 19 gallons. Quick Asian math, that's 38 gallons. That's right, Julian, is that right? I needed my abacus. That's 38 gallons. Now, here's the drawback, which is why I'd love to have a diesel engine in this truck. I would never do that because unless it's a quad cab where I'm carrying a whole bunch of crap and a whole bunch of kids, I really don't need that. But I do like the idea of a 12 valve, or a 5.9 Cummins, which is one of my favorite engines, in an old D-Series Dodge pickup truck. Wouldn't do it in an old Ford because parts are still readily available for these rigs. You can get an aftermarket tune-up of all the parts relatively cheap, and these things never die. This truck has 74,000 original miles and gets an average of 8 to 10 miles per gallon, which is dog crap, like garbage. But that's still 360 miles and one very expensive tank of gas thanks to the war in Iran. It might be over by the time you see this video, but probably not. So it's not cheap. But again, you have all the low capacity. If you're talking per gallon of gas, 6.2 pounds, something like that. Even putting a potential 75 gallon Long Range America or Titan fuel tank on board, and you're just a rolling hazard, but can go a long way. So what we're doing right now is I'm headed up into the mountains behind the house, Wasatch Mountains by the house, 13 minutes from my driveway. And we're gonna test some of the off-road capability. I've never put this thing in four-wheel drive. It hasn't been necessary on the roads that we travel, but it has manual locking hubs and then 4 high and 4 low. We'll see how it works. It does have a 4-wheel drive indicator, which is good because it tells me I'm in 4-wheel drive, and it has manual locking hubs. So free lock. Look at the dry rot on these things. Wow. Very close to not being, or just us being dead. So it's locked now. They say lift kits for these are pretty, I don't know if it's difficult. You got shocks and leaf springs, and you have this independent wishbone setup that creates some geometry issues when you put a lift on it, but I want a 4-inch lift because I want to put 33s or even 35s if I can get it underneath this guy. With 8 lug, 16-inch wheels. That's a shame about these wheels too, because they're actually good tires and they have a good amount of tread on them, but they're just dry rotted. I got to swap them out. I don't want to risk the fam. Doing a little test. See how well this thing does off-road. There's a few little obstacles that we can navigate. Don't want to get too crazy because I will blow one of these tires out. And I'm not trying to impress you by how badass this is off-road, because it's not, but it certainly can go off-road where it needs to go in a bug-out situation. There it goes. Now we're good. I don't think there's going to be a problem with this. I didn't want to get it too dirty because the missus will be mad at me, but you know what? It's for the tubes. This is for Outpost. You know what I'm saying? We gotta keep it real. So we're gonna go on one of those rough ruts and see if we can get some action shots of this thing wheeling off-road as it was intended to be. The seat's pretty cozy, I'm not gonna lie. The turning radius in this thing with 265, 75, 16s, not too bad. 33s, I have no turning radius. But it's not binding too bad. But I'm only locked up, remember, up front, and it's 4-wheel drive. I don't know if this is a divorce transfer case or if that was just on the high boy using the same one, but it's a massive transfer case. Oh, drop works. Seen that flex? All right, right across the way here in these beautiful mountains, there is a massive rut set up where these UTVs come through here and rip it. It's probably wet too. This is gonna be fun to clean later. But, oh my God! One of the things that is well known in these trucks, especially with a 3,200 to 3,800 low capacity, is if the rear end's not loaded, which is not, this thing's gonna ride rougher than if it had a loaded rear end. That's what she said, or that's what he said. Now you can't probably tell, but we're at a 45-degree angle. You know, it's the terrain is deceiving based on the camera. It's not picking up all the angles, but we're rock crawling right now. All right, so here's an obstacle. You want to do this? Yeah, so this thing is like solid. My favorite thing in the world is overlanding and off-roading in old rigs. I have a 1984 Scrambler, 1985 4Runner. I have everything, an 83 Toyota pickup truck, 76 Ford pickup truck. I got a lot of old stuff, and it's my favorite. There's nothing more exciting than just having an old rig that's capable off-road. And you know, my CJ8, my 84 CJ8, man, baller. Look, you don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of aftermarket mods to just go out and have fun. I think that's the point of it all. Whether you're bugging out or you're just going out on the weekend to have fun with the kids, which is kind of one and the same, because if you're prepared for recreation, you're prepared for everything else. I go out and recreate because I want to get away from people. And if I'm capable in that long haul, then man, I'm doing all right, man. I actually I'm happier. And again, I don't have to spend $100,000 to make it happen. No offense to Raptor owners, because I am one, but man, only on a payment. I ain't trying to fork out that much cash. 20 times the cost of this. That's insane. Easy. All right, let's head home. That was enough. Later, guys. Yeehaw!